Welcome to this Connect M3 Fortnight podcast recorded on 26th of February 2025. I'm Helen King and my fortnight today is titled, Why is chalk put in our bread? Chalk's a useful thing. It's good for writing on blackboards, although perhaps less useful for that nowadays. It's also good for tennis court boundaries, giving rise to a famous question, who saw chalk dust? Chalk, however, has another use. This use is unexpected and extremely concerning. Chalk, calcium carbonate to give it its correct name, is in most of the bread and flour we buy and eat in the UK. The question is, how does this contaminant, which has the potential to cause serious harm to those who eat it, get into bread and flour? Chalk in bread sounds absurd. If it's in bread, it must surely get into it by being added to the dough, by unknown intruders working under the cover of darkness after the bakers have left for the day. The act of injecting chalk dust into the dough, as the way it must be put into bread, must surely also be accompanied by much evil laughter. All this must surely be part of a wicked plot to poison people, to either kill them or make them ill, or both perhaps. You'd think. But this is not how it happens, or perhaps it is. Whether you see it this way or not depends on your belief system. It's dependent upon your position in bed and whether you're operating with soldier mindset or scout mindset. This isn't a riddle or a brain teaser. The reality is that calcium carbonate, chalk, is put into most bread and flour in the UK, but it's not done covertly. Its presence in these staple foods is one of those realities that are not secret. It's just that most people are unaware. The reason most flour and bread contains calcium carbonate is they have to contain it by law. As the nutritionist and vitality coach Kylie Veely explains, adding chalk to bread used to be banned by law because it was adulteration of food. Today, however, chalk is a mandatory additive to almost all loaves in the UK and many other countries in the name of fortification. All foods that contain white wheat flour, which is the second most ubiquitous foodstuff on the planet after rice, contain it. The current UK legislation dates back to World War II, when the bread and flour regulations stated that all white wheat flour produced or sold in the UK has to be fortified. The stated reason, the good reason if you like, is to replace natural nutrients that are removed by the milling process. Those natural nutrients are replaced by synthetic ones. Not only is it questionable that everyone should eat chemical additives, most often unknowingly, to benefit only some people, but these additives are believed to be toxic. They don't act like poisons, instead they slowly accumulate in the intestinal tract, arteries, tissues and cells. They build up in the body and eventually disrupt normal, healthy internal processes. In other words, they cause a variety of age-related diseases. I recommend reading this article by Kylie to find out how to avoid it, especially as buying organic flour is not a certain way to avoid these additives. The Real Bread campaign believes many people in the UK have deficiencies in their diets. It doesn't, however, believe so-called fortification of flour addresses the root cause of that problem. Given how prominent those well-known burger places are, with queues of eager customers, a malnutrition problem in the UK is no surprise. In 2013, the government looked at whether flour should still be fortified with chalk and other additives. The Department of Health and the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, known as DEFRA, which is responsible for food production standards, concluded that it should. In 2024, a new additive was mandated. Folic acid will shortly be added to flour, apparently to prevent neural defects in newborn babies and improve the health of pregnant women. Rather than targeting deficiencies present in newborns, we all have to eat it, like it or not, and without any choice. Why is that? The answer depends on your mindset. I said earlier, chalk and flour and bread is a threat to food security. This is because there is no contingency clause in the regulations to allow unfortified flour to be sold in the UK if any of the mandatory fortifying additives were unavailable. In effect, no chalk means no white bread. One could say this would be a good thing, since much white bread is bad for our health. There's just one problem. The consequences of such a disruption to the chalk supply would extend far beyond bread. It would impact on cakes, biscuits, and an array of foods which form a significant part of people's diets. Fish fingers are one example. Jars of sauces are another. It's a long list. White flour is in a lot of foods. The chalk in flour and bread, despite being bad for our health, has to be legally compliant. It can't be just any old chalk. The UK supply could thus easily be disrupted, as shown by DEFRA's UK Food Security Report of December 2024. As DEFRA warns, a disruption in supply could have an immediate effect on the supply of flour that's illegal in the UK. There is no quarry in the UK to produce calcium carbonate that is legally compliant. We rely on imports. That sounds familiar. That's bad enough. But worse, all the chalk we import comes from one French quarry. It doesn't take a great deal of dot joining to work out that our food security is extremely insecure. Along with all the other familiar and terrifying reasons for shop shelves being empty, chalk is another. It's like the nursery rhyme, for want of a nail, in which the lack of a horseshoe nail leads to the loss of a kingdom. There's a difference, however. That cautionary tale is easy to understand. It makes sense. Food shortages caused by the inability to comply with legislation by adding chalk to flour, however, gives me a sense of cognitive dissonance. Chalk is bad for us. That's what I see. So it shouldn't be in food. It's nothing like a nail in a horseshoe. Others might believe that, if the chalk supply were disrupted, legislation would be changed and suddenly chalk-free food products would be available. Personally, I don't know the real reason chalk is put in flour and bread. I said earlier that how you see the situation will depend on your belief system. Perhaps one question we might all ask is, do we feel lucky? Another question is, are you a believer in what the government tell us? Are you an explorer, a seeker of the truth, wherever that may lead? So that's my current thinking and opinion on the subject. But I wonder, what do you think about it? Thank you for listening to this Thought Byte today. I hope it's given you further things to think about on this important subject, or whether the government is right in putting additives in everyone's food that, we're told, benefit only some people. For further information on this and related subjects, do check out the PDF version of this article, reference TB 5095A. It contains a number of links to supporting articles, plus links to many other enlightening and fascinating articles on a whole variety of topics. Meanwhile, I look forward to sharing my next Thought Byte with you very soon. Goodbye.